What on earth is going on? Leave you people alone for 5 minutes, and what do I find when I get back? Utter chaos. I trust that's not the brain hormone that creature's drinking. Good boy. Nice boy. There's a good creature. Now, let's talk this over. I can get you diseases. You'd like that, wouldn't you? Perhaps not.
Talk a little bit about what's going on in this room, because I think there are some fascinating ramifications here for the future. When you introduce genetic material of research quality to a life form such as ours, which is possessed of a sort of, I hesitate to use the word atavism, but let us say a highly aggressive nature. For example, that fellow over near the, I believe that's a common bat of the order Chiroptera, the only mammals, I might add, capable of true flight.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Have you ever been in an institution? Cells.
Cells.
Do they keep you in a cell? Cells.
Cells.
When you're not performing your duties, do they keep you in a little box? Cells.
This causes it. This causes it. This causes it. Information overload. All the electronics around you poisoning the airwaves.
You are listening to the High Tech Low Life podcast, a cyberpunk media retrospective. High Tech Low Life contains language and themes not suitable for all audiences, as well as spoilers for the content being covered. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the High Tech Low Life podcast with your hosts, Eric and Josh. My name, Eric.
My name, Josh.
We are happy to be back for what is most likely, almost certainly, our final main feed episode for 2024, a year that was just a good time for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And we're doing... okay, let's be honest. It's a movie that we joked. We want to watch Gremlins 2. It's a joke.
It is a joke. This is the punchline to a joke years in the making.
We're going to shoehorn in ways that it's cyberpunk because there's like an electric gremlin who's inside the phone system. That kind of counts. And then we watched it and realized this movie is 100% cyberpunk, and we're going to have you convinced by the end of this episode.
Yes, we will sell you on our fucking thesis.
I think it's...
our thesis that we were very surprised to have proved.
I mean, it's... if you won't go as far as cyberpunk, like the actual genre, it shares so many of the cyberpunk themes and, common talking points that it definitely fits a lot more than 20% of the shit we've covered on here. So
easily. Yeah. And it's 100% more entertaining than at least 40% of the shit we've watched for
might
this.
even go higher than that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was being very generous because I don't remember what we've watched or not watched.
It's a very good movie.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say anything more than that.
It's nearly a perfect movie. I don't know how I would improve it in any way.
Yeah.
It's kind of like The Thing. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways like, oh, they could have fixed this, or like a little rearrangement here would have made that smoother. Fuck no. There's nothing I would change about this movie.
We'll get into it more. Let's save everything else for in a few minutes when we get through our opening garbage that we always do on this show. So let's talk about it. How was this week in the world? It was
Well, our beloved CEO shooter was captured.
beloved. Interesting choice of words. Definitely.
Our sexy smoke show. Sexy smoke show Mario Spaghetti.
We are learning a lot about this country in the last week, aren't we?
Yeah.
Not just like the fact that the people are angry at CEOs and health insurance companies. Like most of us, if you're not one of the super elite, you knew that.
Mm-hmm.
But like the media, the way the media's handled this has been fascinating, while simultaneously like they're trying to say that this is unequivocally bad, and they can't understand why everybody is not feeling empathy for the murder, while at the same time like posting shirtless pics and murder victims, what I was trying to say. While simultaneously like loving the fact that this guy gets clicks and engagement and, you know, putting his sexy mug all over the place. It's fucking weird.
It's very weird. We've also we've also, continuing on something I talked about last week, learned that this guy was not captured by amazing police work, Dan. This guy was captured because some fucking class traitor who worked at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, was like, hey, that's the sexy guy who shot the CEO.
Yeah.
And called the police. And he's probably not getting his reward. But
because he called the police and didn't call Crime Stoppers.
Yes.
Yeah, fuck that person. I think we can all agree.
Yeah, I mean,
I get it. Like,
if you're thinking theoretical $50,000 payout, it's hard for somebody who is working at a McDonald's to say no to that.
Yeah, that's a lot of medical bills paid, frankly.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not. It's like one major procedure.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I mean, I guess since we spoke, a lot has broken on the story, but I hate like recapping news as if nobody's read it or knows. Like if you want to know what happened, go watch actual news people talk about it, not us. We just give commentary.
Yeah.
We're critics because we have no skills at life.
That's true. Yeah, that is plainly fucking evident. Given that we've been doing this for 10 years now.
Yeah. Clearly, also no skills at being critics.
Yeah.
Low barrier to entry, though. So that's
pretty low barrier to entry. Other news related to last week. The South Korean president has been impeached.
Cool.
Like as of this morning, it happened overnight. So that's good.
You know what happens if you impeach a president after midnight?
Oh, God.
Probably nothing good.
Yeah, probably nothing good. And also, I mean, we do have to bring in these rules about, well, was it after midnight in South Korea?
Yeah, it's confusing.
It does. What if you impeach a president who's stuck between your teeth and you travel between time zones?
Don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
The bright side is he's impeached.
Yes. So that's something. I mean, that's a sign that things could potentially work out okay.
Once in a while.
Crickets.
Other than that, though, it's kind of just been a slow week. Everybody's been hyper focused on. Oh, there was the woman who got arrested for, quote, copycat, end quote, criming Luigi Mangione because she threatened some call center operator on a health insurance customer service line.
Oh, I apparently did not see this.
Oh, you missed that.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty big story. I'm kind of surprised. Woman in Florida. Okay, now I'm recapping the news. I just said I didn't want to do this. Woman in Florida was on a call. I don't know the details, but so everybody go confirm this shit afterwards. But she was on some type of call with her health insurance company and they were denying her service. And so she basically said on the phone, depose. I can't remember the third D.
Depose is the third one.
Okay, whatever.
It's delay,
Defend?
deny,
delay.
depose.
delay, deny, depose. You people are next, and hung up on them. She was arrested.
Wow.
She had like $100,000 bond set, and I believe she's looking at 15 years in prison.
Nice.
So that
Yeah.
is like, pretty dystopic. Cracking down on speech. Like, I know you're not allowed to make threats in your speech, but it's pretty highly arguable that was a threat.
Yeah.
And this is a 42-year-old mom of 3.
Nice. Well,
So-
I wish her the best of luck in making bail.
I think she's out as of last I read. She's out, and the charges are pending.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe obviously, this is breaking shit, so it'll all be different by the time this airs.
Yeah,
and I'm not going to edit it again like I did last week.
Yeah, you did a good job with that.
The best I could.
Yeah.
And I knew by the time between I made that edit and the actual release, things were going to change again. So what's the point?
Yeah. Don't do a topical news show 4 days ahead that releases in the middle of the week.
Well, I always thought 4 days is about, like, so many of the podcasts I listen to are usually about a week behind it.
Many, yeah.
Doesn't fucking matter. Time, this shit moves fast. And honestly, we're not a topical news show. I don't know why we keep doing it.
I just in the past week listened to a podcast that was recorded. It was like the day that Biden bowed out of the race.
Wow.
And it was like a release from 2 weeks ago or something.
Damn.
Yeah.
Were they talking about it?
Yeah, it was brought up just kind of as a, hey, wow, that's fucking crazy. And I'm sitting here 6 months later going like, man.
You guys are so naive.
Yeah.
I do like when you're listening to a back catalog and you can really place it in time by somebody makes a reference to that. Like, most time people want to keep their podcast evergreen, but I find a few of those sprinkled in is fun. Like, you can always tell when a podcast hits 2020.
Yeah.
Shit just goes off the rails and everybody's acting weird.
Yes. Yes, they certainly are. I know we were.
Yeah. I guess that's enough dystopia for today. Shit, we got like 2 weeks before we put out a new episode. It's the end of the year. I'm sure it's going to go nuts. Enjoy it, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, good luck not having our commentary to pull you through it.
I'm sure you'll survive.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You might have some Patreon episodes, though.
Yeah. Okay, you got any recommendos?
I have only one.
Okay, I have two. So why don't I do one, then you do yours.
Okay. All right.
Then so on and so forth. Okay, so my first recommendo, I watched a movie called Conclave.
I've scrolled past it many a time. Rafe Fiennes?
Yeah, Rafe Fiennes, Stanley Tucci. It's a drama. Oh, and Isabella Rossellini.
Mm-hmm.
It's a drama about the election of a new pope, and maybe the old pope was murdered, or there's a.
Is it a mystery?
Yeah, kind of mystery thriller, whatever. And I think it is a good example of the type of movies that tend to not I'm surprised it wasn't a Netflix, Amazon Prime, Apple, TV show or a movie, just because it's a fairly small scale, people talking in rooms. That's the whole fucking movie.
Right. I like those movies sometimes, though.
Yeah, they're great movies. I mean, honestly, a lot of those movies are fucking wonderful. And they should make more of them, but the movie business has gone utterly insane. So, there's another piece of dystopia news. Warner Brothers is making Sesame Street homeless.
Wow.
Anyway, Conclave.
Well, Warner Brothers sucking ties very much into our project we're covering today.
Yes, it does. Conclave, recommendo. Like, if you just, a bunch of adults talking in a room, if you want a movie like that, great. It's a great movie for that.
I did not think, I don't know, I scrolled past it, I'm like, that looks like something I would never want to watch. But I've been wrong about that, and I do like Ray Fiennes, and I do like Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
The Tooch. He does some great TikToks. He does like cooking TikToks.
Yeah, he's
They're weirdly sexual, unintentionally.
Are you sure? I mean,
Maybe.
have you seen the Stanley Tucci, I think it's a Levi's ad from like 1987?
You would not expect it.
Sexy.
He has an energy about him. It is undeniable.
Yeah.
Let's do my recommendo real quick. It's not really one. I've recommended it a dozen times on this show, but I'm sad because Somebody Somewhere is over, and it's just one of the nicest
Yes.
TV shows that's ever been made, and it should have more seasons. And I've heard they're not renewing it, and that bums me out. And it should have more.
It really should. And I cannot give enough praise to a show where the emotional peak, like the emotional climax, is the main character hugging, slightly hugging and allowing herself to be hugged by another character. I mean,
that's her character development. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge step.
It's so good. Everyone involved is amazing in it. And I'll miss it.
Yeah, I will too. That's what I watched when I got home from the hospital Sunday night, you know, at like fucking midnight.
Yeah.
I was, I'm very sad to see it go, but you know, they did as well as they could with a final episode for that show, because
I think it was a great final episode. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a wonderful fucking show, and I'm very sad to see it go. But
that's the business.
That is sadly the business. That's another WB fucking thing.
I was gonna say, it's almost like the entertainment industry is bad and stupid.
Yeah, almost.
We'll talk about that more in a minute.
Fucking most.
Do your final one, and then we'll talk about Gremlins.
My final one, which ties my first recommendo to Gremlins, is I watched a movie called Heretic the other night.
The 3 or 4 year old horror movie?
No, it is a fairly new movie. It just came out on streaming, starring Hugh Grant.
Oh, right. What am I thinking? I want to see that. What's the Heretic movie I'm thinking?
There is entirely possibly... Well, there's The Exorcist Heretic, I think.
Of course, there's an Exorcist insert word here for every word in the dictionary.
You know, there honestly aren't that many Exorcist movies, but yeah, I totally see why you have that impression. Or
whether it's reality or not, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
How do you like it? I want to see it.
I thought it was real good.
Okay, cool.
It's it's an A24 movie, so take that for what it's worth. I guess.
Usually it's a good sign.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to roll 50-50 with it, but some people...
I think my rate's higher than that, but...
Yeah. I don't know. I have a weird understanding of A24. Somebody once described it to me as supreme for film bros. Okay. And that really stuck with me in a way that I have not been able to shake, and I can't disprove.
I'm not sure what supreme for regular people is, so
I mean,
I don't think we have time to get into it. It's just a clothing brand, right?
The streetwear. Yeah. Basically, they were equating it to A24 is a really effective branding exercise.
Okay.
And that's I can't disprove it. Anyway, good movie. Enjoyed it. Definitely worth watching. It's more. I recommend it more highly than I do The Conclave. But the reason that I'm using this to bridge into Gremlins, okay,
all right,
to bridge from Conclave to the Gremlins. Okay, it's a movie about religion, and because Conclave is about electing a new pope. So it's a movie about religion and like what it means to believe and religious doctrines, etc. So it falls pretty squarely, in my mind, into kind of a fairly long tradition of what you might call religious horror, such as The Exorcist.
Yes, I believe I've heard of that movie.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I listened to a podcast, however, where somebody described it as a thriller. And their justification for this was that, no, it's not a horror movie because it doesn't have anything supernatural in it.
Not required.
And I certainly would argue that that is absolutely not required because, I don't think there's anything fucking supernatural in, say, Texas Chainsaw Massacre or even
Saw?
the first Halloween.
I guess I've never seen Saw, so I shouldn't say that, but I'm pretty sure.
No, there's nothing supernatural in at least the first Saw movie, which
there's a lot of horror movies that don't have supernatural elements.
So their argument was that
Jaws, fucking Jaws.
Yeah, well, again, the argument is that there's nothing supernatural in it, and then they further elaborated and said, and it's not like, all gory and stuff. So and they also had other examples that they counted, like Silence of the Lambs. Well, it's got gore and stuff, but it's not a horror movie. So this leads me into Gremlins 2, where it is described as a horror comedy.
Right. I would agree.
I would also agree. And so is the first Gremlins movie. Horror comedy, great. But at what point, I don't know, and this is something that we'll definitely at some point, whenever we actually do the media literacy episode.
Okay. It's growing every day.
Yeah. At what point do putting the trappings of something on, like say, this movie, Gremlins 2, has much more so than Gremlins 1. It's definitely got a horror element, but they're gremlins, but it's mostly a comedy, and
it's really cyberpunk.
And why is it not a sci-fi movie? Why is it not a sci-fi comedy? I mean, is there anything that differentiates the Gremlins as being a horror element as opposed to if they had started this movie like The Thing with a flying saucer landing on Earth 30,000 years ago,
dropping off a mogwai.
Yeah, this would be a fucking sci-fi movie. And
but The Thing is a horror movie. It's a horror sci-fi.
Yeah.
So comedy.
I don't know. It's pretty funny. I mean, he's got the hat.
And the head sprouts legs. That's pretty neat.
That's pretty neat. Let's laugh a minute.
I giggled.
Yeah. So at what point, I don't know, and I've always been of the mind that genre is really kind of nonsense.
Yeah, I agree.
This kind of, especially the extreme categorization, is dumb.
Yeah, it's like, and people fucking love to do it. It's like any heavy metal fan will tell you. I don't know why they love it so much. Yeah,
it's post doom, near black, whatever,
melodic,
power slop with an edge.
The genre argument is exhausting, often annoying. I think you have to call Gremlins 2 a horror comedy, but I think you're right that it's got a musical number. It's got it's got sci-fi elements. It's got cyberpunk elements. It's got everything. Yeah. It's got it all.
It has
family
everything.
Friendly.
Yes, absolutely. We never see that little green vajayjay.
No, we never. Well, no, we don't.
No.
That's a good segue, I guess. That's a good bridge. Let's actually kick it off.
Okay, so Gremlins 2. This movie came out June 15th, 1990. Okay, so a solid, 5 years after the first one?
Yeah.
Directed by Joe Dante, and it is one of the best movies of all time. I always try to rewatch shit for this show. I watch it once cold and then I go back through and take notes. And it took me about twice as long as the movie when I was taking notes because I would find myself getting caught up in bullshit and have to rewind like 5 minutes
Yeah.
because I had realized, oh, I stopped typing.
Yeah, I wrote down a bunch of quotes on my second watch through
Oh, good.
that I felt were very apropos to what we cover here. And
Yeah,
agree. I struggle getting through the first watch of some of these movies we cover. And I watched this not that long ago before we did it for the show. And so I've watched it 3 times pretty recently, and I could watch it again.
Yeah, I could turn it on right now and probably find myself nearly as entranced.
There's a lot going on. This would
is
be a great minute movie.
Yeah, it really would. It's way up, like we talked about. I think it was on the commentary track we recorded. Oh yeah, by the way, if you join our Patreon, you'll get to hear a commentary track for Gremlins too.
Most likely releasing simultaneously with this. So
yeah, this and Army of Darkness are kind of like my leading contenders for what would actually be a good thing to do a commentary track. Or
the problem with this one is
minute by minute.
The first half is a little, I'm not going to say slow. It's not slow, but it doesn't have as much going on. But the second half, holy shit.
Yeah.
Each minute would be a 2-hour podcast.
Yeah. There's so much wild shit going on. So if you remember Gremlins 1, which we're not going to cover because that's not a cyberpunk movie. Why would we cover that?
It's a great film.
Yeah, it's a great film. So the main character's dad, the main character's name is Billy Peltzer. His dad goes into a shop in, a creepy little shop in Chinatown full of weird antiques and shit like that, and finds this little creature in this shop. And it looks like, I don't know, a teddy bear with fucking big bat wing ears. Mm-hmm. And it's very cute and does this weird humming noise, this little song. And he purchases this mogwai and gives it to his son Billy for Christmas. It turns out there are a bunch of rules about this creature. You can't feed it after midnight. You can't get it wet. Sunlight hurts. Yeah, sunlight or bright lights hurt it or will kill it. And then they find out why these rules are in place, where the mogwai, which Billy named Gizmo, gets wet and pops off all these little hamster-like fuzzballs, which turn into other mogwais, and then they eat food after midnight, go into these weird cocoons, and then turn into these lizard monkeys.
Yeah,
that are evil and start attacking people, and largely destroy the small town that Billy and his girlfriend Kate, played by Phoebe Cates, live in. They finally defeat them, and this movie is a couple of years later, right? That seems like a pretty good rundown.
I think it's the full 5, judging by how much change has happened in their lives.
Yeah. It's been just as long since I've seen this movie, since I've seen the original Gremlins. So,
yeah, I watched it so many times. It was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I watched it so many times that I pretty much don't need to see it again. I think. Yeah,
I think I don't know if this is just a sample size thing, but it seems like Gremlins was probably one of those super, super popular VHS tapes, from, its release in 1986 or whatever to the end of fucking VHS.
I mean, it was a horror movie, but it was absolutely marketed to kids, especially kids. I was in the sweet spot of 8 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing. Cause it was everywhere. It was on TV all the time. It was on VHS everywhere. Gremlins 2 was not a hit. And I watched it once and loved it and would have liked to watch it over and over again, but I never saw it anywhere. I'm sure I could have probably found it on VHS if I was looking, but it wasn't ever on TV or, anything like that. So I don't have the connection to Gremlins 2 as a child that I had to the original Gremlins, but of which I am now forming as an adult.
Yeah, I saw this in the theater because my dad was an irresponsible parent. Well, more realistically, my parents were divorced.
Yeah.
And subsequently, my dad needed shit to do with us on the weekends.
I saw a couple of movies for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And then I, probably saw it a couple of times on VHS or HBO or something. But anyway, so that sets up the whole thing. So we're 5 years later. So the movie obviously starts with Daffy Duck yelling at Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
There's just some Looney Tunes shit. And this sets up the best aspect of the movie, and, arguably the best aspects of virtually any movie, which is characters that are Looney Tunes.
Yes.
This movie is absolutely full of them. This is the most Looney Tunes movie there is.
Other than like Space Jam. Yeah. It is. I mean, so many of the gags are straight out of Looney Tunes. Like
the sound effects are directly out of Looney Tunes.
And the Looney Tunes characters are in the beginning and end.
Mm-hmm.
Good for Daffy standing up for himself.
Yeah.
Let Bugs take all the glory.
Yeah, so it was that year was Bugs Bunny's 50th anniversary, and Daffy shuts him out of the intro process.
Oh, real quick, also important to point out for our show, big month for anthropomorphic ducks.
Oh yeah, that's true. I
2 in a
didn't
row.
think of that. Yeah, I mean
December.
That's weird.
Duck-cember.
Oh shit! Should we do Howard the Duck next episode?
We could get it in by the end of the year.
I think we could pervert that film into a cyberpunk program.
Oh boy. I mean, it's definitely sci-fi.
And it's definitely perverse.
Yeah.
Taya Leone fucks that duck.
Yeah.
Or wait, was that Leah Thompson? I can never remember. I can never keep
Oh, it was Leah Thompson. It was Leah Thompson.
I don't know
It's
why.
Marty McFly's mom.
Yeah. Okay. So we go out of Looney Tunes shit, and then we have this beautiful flyover shot of Manhattan coming in from the south part of the island.
Could be a UFO.
Could be a UFO. In fact, it is Superman. This is footage they just took from Superman 4.
Hey, that reminds me, we didn't mention the mysterious drones.
Oh, yeah.
Cyberpunk dystopia, but I don't know.
Mostly not mysterious drones, but sure.
Yeah, I really have not. Main reason I didn't bring it up is because I haven't read a single article on it because I cannot bring myself to give a shit.
What I have seen in literally every article is either astoundingly credulous reporters saying, yes, these drunk hillbillies saw lights in the skies, classic UFO shit, or somebody going, okay, so based on this footage that they posted to the internet, you can see these 2 stars here and these 2 stars here. It was at 8 o'clock in the night. That light in the sky is a flight landing at Teterboro Airport.
Oh, okay.
And they just took the jet engine sounds out of it.
Classic hoax.
Yeah, classic, absolute fucking bullshit. Apparently, people just have never looked up at the sky before and noticed
up there,
and noticed that like airplanes are there. Sometimes they're there and they're high enough that you can't hear the sounds they make.
The ground is so much more comforting, Josh. Come down here with us. Stop looking up there. Nothing good happens up there.
No, I mean, you could have a UFO with a thing in it. Or gremlins.
Or a gremlin. Or you could have Superman.
Yeah. So, we do a Superman shot. And then we zoom down to Mr. Wing, the Chinese curio dealer, into his shop in Chinatown where Gizmo was bought in the first movie. And then at the end of the first movie, he gets returned to Mr. Wing. And we find out that this big developer, Mr. Clamp, I can't remember what his first name is trying to buy Mr. Wing's building because he's tearing down a big chunk of Chinatown to build this exciting new tower real estate development project, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Wing won't sell. But
this is our first little taste of high-tech low life. Like it's clearly arrayed right there before you because they bring a TV and a VCR in, which granted isn't high-tech, but it kind of like a video presentation felt high-tech in 1990.
Yeah, I mean, relatively portable TV and VCR was relatively high-tech.
And then they set it right there amidst all these ancient curios and this old man and all the dust and everything. I mean, right off the bat, high-tech low life coming at you hard out of the gate.
Yeah. Yeah, and Clamp is very clearly a parody cross between Ted Turner and Donald Trump.
100%.
And we'll find out later he owns this big clamp tower and is the biggest, he builds the biggest buildings, and he's also got like a bunch of cable networks headquartered in his tower. So there's the Ted Turner thing, and
The Clamp
he colorizes
News Network.
movies.
Yeah. And I want to point out, like, as it goes on, he's portrayed not as necessarily the bad guy. He has his part to play in solving the problem of the Gremlins. But I realized on my second watch through, he is completely inept. He doesn't have a single idea of his own. Idea,
he's
everything
like,
he
great.
does, he's told to do, and then
Yeah.
he agrees and takes credit for it.
Mhm.
He's not like a malevolent evil force. He is a bumbling buffoon.
Yeah, he's just kind of a guy who
Getting
has
by
a
on
lot
other
of
people.
money, and yeah,
It's a great way, honestly, to show them, because that's what they. I mean, look at him. Look at Elon, man.
Yeah,
Look at the fucking guy. He is
Yeah.
Clamp.
yeah. This is not an archetype that we are unfamiliar with.
Yeah, for sure.
And apparently, in early drafts of the screenplay, Clamp was the like ultimate villain. And then they kind of went through a bunch of different iterations of the screenplay.
I don't think that would have been as effective.
And yeah, it absolutely wouldn't have worked. And then they made the Robert Picardo character Forster. Is that right?
Mhm.
Is that his name? He takes over, some of the more villainous aspects that Clamp had in the earlier drafts.
Yeah.
So he's trying to buy the building from Mr. Wing, but it turns out to not be that important because Mr. Wing is very fucking sick. So then we get a 6 weeks later. Oh yeah, and Gizmo lives in Mr. Wing's building and watches Rambo on the TV that the rich guys left for the teleconference.
Yeah, much to Mr. Wing's chagrin.
Yes. An invention for fools or idiots. I don't remember.
Something like that.
Yeah. So, that's kind of that's the intro setup for 6 weeks later. Now, real quick sidebar about why this movie exists in the form it does. Okay, right now you are watching just a totally normal movie, right? This first 5 minutes, I mean, it could be a setup to any fucking drama movie or horror movie or sci-fi or whatever. There's no indication whatsoever that this movie is completely and radically insane and chaotic. So, apparently, according to Joe Dante, the main thing about this movie, Gremlins 2, comes down to the fact that the Warner Brothers executives did not have the slightest idea of why Gremlins 1 worked. They knew it made a ton of fucking money, and everyone at Warner Brothers, like in the executive, on the executive levels, hated it and didn't think it was going to make a cent. But because Steven Spielberg was producing and he had this deal with Warner, they were basically kind of forced into, okay, well, Spielberg really wants to give this Dante guy a fucking job. And I mean, he's done okay. He did okay in those Howling movies. They made some money. But the WB executives did not understand Gremlins at all, even after it came out. They didn't understand how it made money, why people liked it, anything. God. So they spent like 4 years trying to roll out a fucking sequel. And they hired, I read some interview with Dante. He said that they had hired somewhere north of like 20 writers to come up with pitches for Gremlins 2. And they were all stuff like Gremlins Go Vegas or
watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. But like, because the execs didn't understand what made the movie work, none of the scripts and none of the writers got, like, there were probably some good scripts in there, but the execs were like, what the fuck is this nonsense? This is as bad as the first one.
Yeah.
Which, made however many $1 million, but whatever.
Right.
So then they were fighting, trying to get a Gremlins 2 out because it was hugely popular. And eventually they came around to asking Joe Dante, the director of Gremlins 1 and co-writer, okay, fine. I know you said you don't want to do another Gremlins movie because the Gremlin story is self-contained and you didn't think there was a reason to do another one. There's
Absolutely true, by the way.
Yeah, there's no reason, there's no justification to do a second one.
The fact this movie exists is a crime against nature.
Yeah, it honestly is. It is. Yeah, this movie is the exception to the rule of me looking at a movie and going, "Why is this happening? Is it just to have a movie?" And in fact, the answer to this is yes. It is just because we want to have a movie.
Yeah,
and this time it worked out. So, and he said, "No, I don't want to do another fucking Gremlins. It worked fine." And they said, "Okay, we'll give you complete control. You can do whatever you want."
And 10 dump trucks of money, apparently.
Yeah. We will give you whatever you want and make a fucking Gremlins 2. So he was like,
whatever.
Rock and fucking roll. And that sets up this movie. So, 6 weeks later, Mr. Wing is dead. We see a little news report about that, and then they're demolishing Mr. Wing's building. Gizmo is still trapped inside. They haven't even bothered to strip the copper and the ancient Chinese antiques out of it.
Yeah.
So Gizmo escapes, and then he gets captured by a guy that we're going to see again on this show, or on our show,
on our podcast.
One of the twins from Terminator 2. Not that he was a twin in Terminator 2, but
were two of them on screen at once.
Yeah, there were two on screen at once. Actually, there's two versions of that in Terminator 2. God damn it. He escapes, gets grabbed by this cheerful, red-haired, round-faced guy with a mustache. And then we cut to Billy Peltzer and his girlfriend, Phoebe Cates, walking through Times Square. They both work at Clamp. Phoebe Cates is fucking adorable.
You could also call this couple Dawson and Joey, if you wish.
Yeah.
Feels like...
Yeah, I think that's not terribly far off. So they both work at Clamp, where Billy is a illustrator, concept artist. I don't know what. Something?
Was he an artist in the first one? I can't remember.
I honestly have no memory.
He worked in a bank. Maybe he did draw pictures while he was working in the bank. I think he got in trouble for that.
Yeah, that vaguely rings a bell. So, Kate is a tour guide wearing a silly hat and a funny uniform, and she's adorable because she's Phoebe Cates. I mean, and it's 1990.
And she's ramping up to do Drop Dead Fred.
Oh God, that's soon.
That's her next movie.
Yeah, okay, I believe it.
And basically last, she did a couple.
Yeah, ramping up to do Drop Dead Fred and then bail on the whole fucking thing.
And then deuces.
Peace out. And we learned partially she's a tour guide for this building because it is a very fancy building. It's the most automated building in the world. It's got these automated rotating doors on the front that don't work half the time. Lights turn on and off when you enter or exit a room. Restrooms yell at you to wash your hands. All sorts of crazy bullshit.
This is maybe the most prescient part of the movie. And I know this movie doesn't take place in the future, but it was
certainly the future in terms of 1990.
Yeah, and they were using tech that didn't necessarily exist yet to display a building of the future. And the whole malfunctioning tech thing is just like, that's the world we live in, man. All this shit that was supposed to make life so convenient has made life such a pain in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely goddamn miserable.
And, I mean, it's in shitification before that was even conceived as a word. And it's just one more way in which this movie is what it is.
Yeah. One more thing on that where they're walking to work thing. They walk through Times Square, which Times Square in like 1989 when they shot this.
Different place.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Fucking chef's kiss.
I like this movie. It shows like the few outside shots like do not display New York as a nice place. Like they're in all the most rundown like
and
shitty places.
It's actually a very realistic version of it, because most of the time when you see that in movies, it's like the nightmare version where it's, Times Square at fucking 4:00 in the morning with roving gangs of junkies like dressed up like the Warriors.
Yeah.
This is just New York City as a as a semi-functional city in 1989.
Yeah, sure. There's a dog eating out of a trash bag, but that's what happens when you're in a city in 1989.
And that's what happens when you don't have a trash can in 2024.
Yeah.
They pass a movie theater marquee for The Howling 11.
Nice.
They go into work. We see Phoebe Cates leading a little bit of a tour through the building and about how amazing it is, and they shoot TV here, etc. And Billy goes to his office where he's drawing shit, and then he gets in trouble because we're getting into the nightmare corporate shit. He has unauthorized plants and personal illustrations on his desk, and gets called out by
Forrester.
The guy, Forrester, played by Robert Picardo, who's mostly famous for Star Wars or Star Trek stuff.
Yeah.
And he's been in a million movies you've seen, but whatever. And we get some more cyberpunk horrible corp life shit where Billy has this metal badge with a UPC code on it that Forrester scans and like is able to bring up his employee records. So he gets in trouble for having, too much personal shit around his desk. And we meet his boss, Marla, who is a brassy redhead.
Middle
management. And as we equated her in the commentary track, she's a very New York.
Yeah. Like Harley Quinn, think Harley Quinn voice.
Yeah. She's like the trying to be real sexy Annie Potts from Ghostbusters.
I mean, depending on your taste, succeeding.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And she's kind of shitty.
She's more worried about advancement than anything else, and she'll step on whoever she has to get to get there.
Absolutely. And then we get some more cyberpunk stuff about they go to the control center. Robert Picardo goes to the control center for the building where there are security cameras everywhere and they're tracking all the employees, and they see Henry Gibson, who is a great, huge B movie actor or supporting actor in A movies.
Oh yeah. Instantly recognizable face, even on the grainy little monitor they're looking at him through.
He notably, in the terms of this podcast, he played the main antagonist in The Burbs, Joe Dante's previous picture.
Oh, nice.
The secret Nazi.
Yeah.
And he has like no lines in this, but you're like, oh, Henry Gibson, shit. And he gets fired for taking an unauthorized smoke break.
Also want to point out this setting is in Shadowrun terms. This is where the building riggers would hang out and direct control the building. It's very cyberpunk room.
Yeah, this is the rigger hub.
Yeah, and probably the Decker hub too. And like it's the nerve center for sure.
So we go through kind of a normal day in the life of little bits of day in the life of Billy and Kate. We meet Uncle Fred, who is a horror movie host dressed up like Dracula. He is an actor named Robert Prosky, who is dressed up exactly like Grandpa from the Munsters, Al Lewis, and largely acting like Al Lewis. He, hosts, late night fucking black and white horror movie show, and Billy's friends with him, and so is Kate. And he talks about how, this stinks. I wanted to be a real reporter, but it's not going to happen. I'm fucking 95 now. And then we go through and we set up a bunch of businesses in the building. Like, there's fucking Spencer's Gifts. There's one of those. Was it Wilson's Leather that you used to see in
place?
Yeah,
I remember seeing it in the movie.
Yeah, and there's a Splice of Life like you see in any mall. A gene splicing operation.
A gene splicing. I knew they'd be problem tenants.
Yes. So we enter Splice of Life, which the owner / operator is Dr. Cushing Catheter, played by Christopher Lee, who is just
the Christopher
gnawing every bit of scenery.
Wonderfully.
It is.
He's the ultimate mad scientist. He's so good.
Yeah, he's maybe, at most, he has 5 minutes of screen time. And he is fucking chef's kiss in every instant of it. It's truly amazing what he is doing, taking so seriously a movie that is making a mockery of the very concept of movies, and also every movie he has ever been in. He is fucking beautiful. We find out that this is where the guy who captured Gizmo works. And he shows Gizmo to Christopher Lee. And he's got a twin brother. So they also have all sorts of silly animals.
Or clone. They kind of imply it's a clone.
Could be a clone. The clones or brothers' names are Martin and Lewis. There are a lot of silly names in this movie.
Yeah, there are.
So there's all sorts of crazy animals around. Like there's a fucking baby elephant and like a cow with a fucking electrodes on its head, and all sorts of bullshit. It's classic mad scientist nonsense. So the twins show Gizmo to Christopher Lee, and he dances to Fats Domino. And apparently in the original version, it was White Wedding by
nice.
Billy Idol, but they couldn't get the rights to it. So they had to just pick another song that was at the same tempo, which would have added a very different flavor to that scene.
Gizmo seems more like a Billy Idol fan than a Fats Domino fan, but
yeah.
And also this movie does have a white wedding in it.
It does. That's true.
Don't forget.
Yeah. The something I failed to mention earlier, Gizmo is a fucking puppet. And it's like,
I don't think you needed to mention that. I think everybody kind of knew.
Well, everybody kind of knew. What they did not know is that might not have known, is that Gizmo is an absolutely fucking incredible puppet.
Yeah.
For 1990.
I agree. I feel like this one's maybe a little bit better than the 85 version, but they're both good.
The articulation on the face and, stuff is fucking incredible.
They all are. All the Gremlins are.
Yeah.
I need to look up who did the puppetry because it's so good.
Rick Baker. Rick Baker was the special effects head. I can't remember the name of the guy who did the first one, but he couldn't do this movie.
Gotcha. Well, this one's better.
And this is like one of the couple of parts where you're like, oh, this special effects aren't very special, because they do a weird compositing thing. Anytime you see Gizmo or the Gremlins in full body and moving, it always looks fucking off. And that's just a technology of the day thing.
Yeah, and then sometimes it works in their favor. Like some scenes with the Bat Gremlin coming up, it lends that uncanny valley stop motion feeling, which actually helps make it a little creepier. Most of the Gizmo stuff, though, just looks bad. And that's one of the few things I think modern technology would improve this movie. But that's basically it on the list.
Yeah, and the thing that makes it so bad is that whenever you're in close-ups or somebody is holding Gizmo or something, when it's not moving across the screen under its own power, all the stuff that isn't that looks so fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
It's true. It's too good that it makes that stuff
Yeah.
look fake. Because if
Yeah.
they shoot Gizmo from the waist up, which is how most of his action scenes are done, Gizmo's, that's why he's so iconic and everybody loves him. He looks like a real little creature.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the special effects on this movie are kind of fucking magic. I mean,
Yeah, it's like, I think you said during the thing, like, we used to make movies in this country. God damn it.
yeah.
This is an insane level of craft that went into Gremlins 2, which is basically one big joke and a couple middle fingers towards Warner Brothers.
Yeah, it is absolutely fucking wild.
The artistry that went into it is, it's incredible.
We'll get to it later, but at a couple of points in the movie, you are like pausing it and going, "Oh my god, right now on the screen on a camera that is panning right now, I see 60 fucking gremlins, and they are panning to more as we speak. And
Yeah.
they are all unique looking and doing different shit. I mean, the scale of this movie is fucking psychotic.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
Yeah. Okay, so a delivery guy played by Raymond Cruz, who is another actor. He ends up being Tuco on Breaking Bad a million years after this.
A million years later. He's been in a lot of stuff.
He hears the Gizmo whistling his little Gizmo song, which I'm not going to attempt to replicate. And he goes and makes some other deliveries, including one to the office where Billy works. And he's whistling this song. And Billy's like, "Where the hell did you hear that?" And he says, "Oh, isn't that by Sting?" And he says, No, what you were just whistling." And the guy says, "Oh, I was making a delivery to the Splice of Life, the gene splicing place." So Billy goes, and with absolute, almost no tension at all, like this would be a major set piece in a lot of movies. Billy goes up to Splice of Life, sees that the doctor, like the gene scientists, including Christopher Lee, are distracted giving electrical cheese to a rat.
Yeah. That's a little foreshadowing.
Yeah. Grabs a toolbox, stuffs Gizmo into it, and walks the fuck away and like releases a monkey as a distraction on his way out.
Yeah.
So like this is literally a 2-minute piece, which is arguably like should be a big set piece. So Billy has to break in and sneak past all this. But no, the movie is way too excited to get to its psychotic fucking jokes.
Yeah, we're not here for a Gizmo rescue. Like, we got shit to do.
Yeah, and this is the point at which we and also in this scene he kind of scans across the Splice of Life room, and it sets up all of the crazy mutant gremlins that we will be seeing in Clock It. I don't know, another full hour.
Yeah.
Like we see, oh, there's a vial with a brain on it. Oh, here's a bat vial. These guys are bouncing vegetables around. All sorts of weird shit. You're like, wow, this is they're throwing a lot of Chekhov's guns at us.
Yeah, this is where the magic is going to happen for sure.
Yeah. So Billy takes off with Gizmo. He goes into a men's room, and this is when we find out some of the true horrors of an automated building. When he is welcomed to the restroom.
So many good ones.
"Hey, mister, welcome to the restroom." And then another guy who's in there leaves. And the voice over the intercom says, "Hey, pal, sure hope you wash those hands."
Another time they go in, he's like, "You're in the men's
room."
Oh, the automated voices. There are so many little jokes in this movie.
There are. I missed writing down so many. Like, I made notes of some, but
anytime somebody gets on and off the elevator, something funny is said. It's great.
Half the time when people are just walking down the fucking halls. Like there's a running gag about how Clamp has instituted keyboard what is it called? Keystroke counting.
Yeah.
To make sure you're efficient all the time.
And then the fire alarm later.
The fire alarm is beautiful. God, I hope you wrote that down. If not, I bet it's on the quotes page because I didn't get the whole thing.
I did not write it down. I wrote down some other stuff, but mainly cyberpunk stuff. I didn't write down jokes.
Yeah,
But the fire alarm says something like, "Fire, destroyer of mankind, swallower of civilizations. This building is
here it
on
is.
fire."
I actually found it. Fire, the untamed element, oldest of man's mysteries, giver of warmth, destroyer of forests. Right now, this building is on fire. Woman in corridor. What? Building announcement. Yes, the building is on fire. Leave the building. Enact the age-old drama of self-preservation. So, yeah, Billy rescues Gizmo and ends up taking Gizmo back to his desk and hiding him in a drawer.
Real quick, before you go on, if I could interject, I was thinking, we just took a break, and I was thinking during it, like, we are about 45 hour into the movie at this point, and haven't seen I haven't seen a gremlin. Gizmo hasn't even been wet yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, like, how is it, like, the movie's been engaging up to this point, and I realized it's because, like, the first half of the movie, they keep you with the weird clamp building gags. That's what keeps you watching, and then once that runs its course, although they still pepper them in, then you get into the gremlin shenanigans. I think it's interesting how the beginning of this movie is so long and is not boring.
Yeah, it's honestly very impressive. The first half of this building, or the first half of this movie, could be the setup for a, like, airplane style comedy about, oh, this building gets locked down or whatever. And it's all about the people trying to get out because the computer system's gone bad, or, some shit like that. But instead it takes, like, if you didn't know what this movie was, like, if you hadn't seen the Gremlins title, this first half of the movie would easily be just as entertaining.
Yeah. And the movie requires this much setup. Like, you have to know what the gene splicing thing is. You have to see this building in action, or else the end doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you have to see that the building is absolutely fucking full of tourists, and the bottom, the bottom levels are like a mall and all sorts of shit.
You have to meet good guys and bad guys to be killed.
Yeah,
it is a horror movie at the end of the day.
Yeah. So he hides Gizmo in his desk, and then Clamp arrives. He's never been down to this floor before. We have found out that Clamp almost never appears to anybody in reality, just on video.
If only some of the aforementioned CEOs of our world would stop appearing in reality.
So, yeah, he shows up on Billy's floor. He's kissing
One of them did last week.
Yeah.
No more appearances from that guy.
Yeah, that's certainly true. So, yeah, Clamp shows up. He's kissing hands and shaking babies. And, he's played by John Glover, who is a great fucking character actor. Audience has undoubtedly seen him in a million fucking things over the years.
Yeah.
More recently, he tends to be crazy bearded guy, but
he's his page up a minute ago. I was gonna.
Yeah, he is great at playing this kind of dim but successful yuppie guy. Like his character in this is sort of a.
Oh, he was in Payback.
Yeah.
Which is one of the movies I got to see with my dad that I probably shouldn't have seen at that age.
Wow. No, come on. Payback.
No, I was 99. You're right. I was of age then.
Yeah. He's kind of like a non-malevolent version of the coked out executive in Die Hard.
Yes.
If that makes sense. So
he's doing a great Trump as we imagined Trump in the 90s.
Yeah, just kind of, and he's just kind of like, oh yeah, this is great. You guys are doing wonderful work. And he sees Billy's illustration of the upcoming Chinatown building and takes a real liking to him and his work. And
immediately tells him to fix the thing that Forrester had just told him to add into his drawings.
Yeah, Forrester said, add some elm trees in there. And then Clamp is like, No, you have to get rid of the Dutch elm trees. People or get rid of the elm trees. When people see that, they think Dutch elm. They think disease. We can't have them thinking that.
Yeah. That's definitely what I think when I see an elm tree.
Yeah, absolutely. And he walks away, and he goes on and does whatever else. And then Marla is suddenly really interested in Billy because Clamp seemed interested in Billy, and she kind of forces him to take her out to dinner at a Canadian restaurant in the lobby. To have a real discussion about his future and how things are going to go. So
Billy doesn't want to because he's got Gizmo in a drawer.
He's got Gizmo in a drawer and Phoebe Cates at home.
Yeah.
So he tells Phoebe Cates, like, okay, I got to go out and do this dinner meeting. Can you go to my office and pick up Gizmo? He's in there, and she freaks out.
That furry
immediately.
thing?
Yeah, because she has serious fucking PTSD from the first movie. Understandably.
Although, if you'll recall, Phoebe Cates was only briefly in that movie.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, and it's also stacked on top of the trauma she has from her father dying in the chimney.
Yes, never forget the most important story told in Gremlins.
Yes.
A story that's lived on perhaps more than the movie itself.
But yeah, weirdly. I mean, it's a great bit.
Yeah. It was horrifying as a child. In fact, they cut it out. Like I had a version I recorded off TV, and that's the one I watched the most, and they cut that out of the TV version. So when I see it later on like an actual copy, I'd be like, it's a scary story when you're 5 thinking of your dad stuck in a fucking chimney.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. And they hang a goddamn hat on it later in this movie.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
So, he re-relays the rules to Kate, like, don't feed, don't get it wet, don't feed it, whatever. But it's all going to work out fine. She's going to go pick up Gizmo. So then we cut to John Aston, old Gomez Adams, who is a janitor, and he's wandering around Billy's office, and he goes to fix a misfiring water fountain.
All right, real quick.
Yeah.
This is one of the quotes I wrote down. John Aston's talking to himself as he's pushing his cart through the office.
Mm-hmm. So he gives a weird monologue to himself.
I wrote the whole thing down. He said, and this is just him mumbling to himself. Take the annual salary of Daniel Clamp. Let's say the guy goes to the bathroom for 30 seconds. The man's earning $375 while he stands there. What can he do? Fix an elevator? What's it going to cost the company for me to get a drink of water? 0.0003 cents. Just a little of that anti-capitalist message being tossed in when you don't even really think about it because you see water fountain Gizmo. You know what's coming. It's about to go down. But they're slipping it in.
Yeah, they are. So, yeah, he tries to fix this misfiring water fountain. Gizmo gets wet and pops out 4 spawn. 4 spawns. One is Googly Eye.
We love him.
The fuckable gremlin.
The most fuckable.
One is the extra stupid gremlin. One is Mohawk, who is basically a rehash of Stripe from the first movie. And then one is Thug.
Who we were told by Jeff on the Astronomical Forum that those are Lenny and what?
George?
Lenny and George from Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
Quite a reference.
And George is largely characterized based around Edward G. Robinson, like from a fucking gangster movie from the 30s. It's very weird.
Once he goes gremlin, he's got a cigar in his mouth the rest of the movie, until the last moment of his demise. He's smoking that cigar.
Yes, he is a puddle smoking a fucking cigar.
He's enjoying every second of his existence, and I'm envious of him for it.
Yeah, and these four Mogwai, immediately turn on their parent, as they always do, I guess.
I've got a little theory on this. We kind of talked about it. We were watching it, and it's like, why is Gizmo the only good Mogwai? And I think when Gizmo, and perhaps there are other Mogwai out there, we don't know, but when Gizmo replicates, he is purging the evil from his system, and that way he is allowed to remain eternally good. These are the bad aspects of Gizmo, right down to like the self-hating, how they always want to torture him.
Sure, yeah.
So that's my theory to how Gizmo remains good, while all other Mogwai appear to be little rascals.
Yeah, okay, sure. I like this.
That being said, googly-eyed Mogwai is some of the dumbest, funniest shit in this movie, too.
It is some of the greatest physical comedy ever put on the screen.
They got that little puppet hucking shit across the kid. He's so good.
Yeah, he's very good. And his eyes are spinning around. It's great.
He just looks stupid as fuck.
He does look stupid as fuck. So, extra stupid Mohawk and Thug capture Gizmo and then shove him into a vent. And Googly Eyes is dicking around, and he's like climbing on top of a big model of the Clamp building, batting at some airplane, batting at a little thing with airplanes on it, kind of like King Kong.
Yeah.
And then Kate shows up and says, "Oh, hey, okay," and sticks him in a bag and takes him
Kate
off.
doesn't know one Mogwai from another. What is she? A fucking Mogwai whisperer?
Yeah, no shit. Why? Like, yeah. She has tried to block out as much of the first movie as possible.
Yeah.
So recognizing individual Mogwai is not her skill set.
No.
So she takes him back to the apartment. And let's see. Oh, yeah. At this part, I did write down one thing that you hear over the over the intercom. Will the owner of car, plate number, blah, 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 please remove it from the Clamp parking lot? Your car is old and dirty.
Yes, I heard that this time too. I thought that was good.
Yeah. So, so she takes off with fucking Googly Eye. We get a little bit of the three remaining Mogwai wandering around the food court and dicking around at a frozen yogurt stand. Because remember, frozen yogurt was very big at the time.
Oh, it was huge. I remember even in my small town, our grocery store got a little frozen yogurt cart, and we went there constantly.
Yeah.
Because it was healthy, guys. It was basically like eating health.
Yeah, it was.
And you could put M&Ms on top.
Yes, M&Ms, sprinkles, whatever.
Yeah.
Reese's Pieces, if you want to do that ET thing. We
still doing that ET thing?
God damn it. I'm going to have to post a link to that now, aren't we?
No, that joke's going to be got by one person, maybe. So
yeah,
that one's for you, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. And we also get some of Billy is having his dinner at the fancy Canadian restaurant with Marla.
Yeah.
Drinking a Jolt Cola while she's having wine.
Jolt Cola label always turned towards camera.
Yeah. It is a hilariously Canadian restaurant.
He's drinking a Jolt Cola and a Molson and a glass of wine. They're really mixing it up. They're really hurting for the next day.
This is serious gaming. I mean, like they're going hard.
It basically looks like Josh's desk after an all-nighter of Caves of Cud.
Yes. Yes, exactly. The fucking waiter is dressed like a Mountie. He pulls up a dessert cart, which is just a giant chocolate mousse. And he's going to serve them
mousse.
An antler for dessert.
May I carve you an antler? What a stupid scene this is.
And Marla basically explained, like, I'm trying to get ahead. You are in good with Clamp. We are going to get ahead because I am going to latch on to you. And like jams her foot in his crotch and sexually harasses the shit out of him and like gives him a big kiss on his cheek as he's taken off.
Yeah, she looks very proud of herself as she indulges in some antler.
Yeah, it's worked out well. So he heads home and then finds that Kate has brought Googly Eyes home, fed him some KFC, and he is just doing crazy idiot googly eye gremlin shit.
A lot of Looney Tunes shit happening.
Exactly Looney Tunes sound effects, fucking video effects. Like she hands him a little corn on the cob thing, and he like buzz saws through it, and then like launches the cob at the back
After
of her head.
burping, of course.
Yeah. And he's fucking just making a huge mess because he's crazy googly eye gremlin. Why wouldn't he?
Googly Eye Mogwai. Now, see, Googly Eye Gremlin
Yeah.
looks stupid as fuck, but Googly Eye Mogwai looks
Yeah.
extra stupid.
Yeah, he really does.
He really looks like a Dollar Tree version of Gizmo. Like,
Yeah.
like when the Gizmo merchandising was so big, this is the Wish.com version.
Yes.
That got sent out to everybody. I love him so much.
Yeah, he is incredible. And so Billy shows up. He's like, "Oh shit, this isn't Gizmo. What the fuck did you do?" And Kate is like, "What the fuck do you want from me? It was in your goddamn office." And I mean, it's basically the same thing.
To be fair, he doesn't get angry with her, and she doesn't
Yeah.
deserve it. Like, how are you supposed to know?
Yeah, yeah. So they're going to take Googly Eye back to Clamp and take care of things. And at this point, it seems like things could continue to be under control. Oh, and the Futtermans show up. The Futtermans from the first movie.
Oh, yeah.
So they were going to Murray Futterman, played by Dick Miller, an incredible character actor with like 200 fucking credits or
So
something.
many. Just passed away last year, I believe.
Yeah. He's coming to New York for his old units reunion. And they showed up a day early, unexpectedly, whatever.
He is uncomfortably xenophobic and conspiracy minded, though.
Yeah.
Pretty funny in 1990, not so funny in 2021.
Not as hilarious now. He would be totally fucking Q-pilled.
Yeah.
But it was funny back then.
Yeah.
And so they end up, he's doing, Dick Miller is just fucking great.
Yeah,
he's apparently being therapized.
Mm-hmm.
His wife mentioned like, "Oh, remember what Dr. blah, blah, blah said." But he's still a little paranoid because he hears the googly eye gremlin like googly eye mogwai make a mogwai noise. And he's like, "What the fuck is that?" Because
if you'll
shockingly,
recall, in the first movie, he got hit by his own snowplow while sitting in his easy chair. So he's been through some shit.
Yeah, he is traumatized, much like Kate.
Yes.
The first movie was not a good experience for anybody other than Billy and Gizmo.
Billy, even. Actually,
Yeah.
both of them. They're probably all traumatized.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. So
Billy's dad, he got out of it unscathed because he was out of town on a business
yeah,
trip.
that's true. So they show up, and that's just set up a thing for a little while later. And then they, Billy and Kate head back to Clamp to take Googly Eye back to deal with whatever the fuck happened. You know, Gizmo had babies. So they go back to Clamp, and this is the point at which we get the Mogwais chaosing in the food court.
Fun times.
Yeah, like one of them sticks its head out of the fucking M&Ms at the frozen yogurt stand, and people are like, "Oh my god, a rat!"
There's a great scene where one of them is having the frozen yogurt poured directly into its mouth, and it's funny. And then you can clearly see like it overflows the head and like squeeges out the eyes.
You see, first its belly is expanding, and then the volume gets too much, and it comes out the eye sockets
Of the puppet, but they left it in because who cares? It probably could happen. Like later, one gets bullet holes and squirts water out of its chest. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Who cares? It's funny.
Yeah.
Which is honestly the guiding principle of this movie. Who cares? It's funny.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's funny enough, it'll all come out in the wash. So they're doing that. Kate and Billy race in, and they're about to shut the water off for the whole building because right now they think, okay, we got some Mogwais running around. So long as we keep them from getting wet and turning into gremlins, this is a controllable problem. We need them to not be breeding.
I believe
right?
at this point they're aware that it's after midnight and that they're not stopping that, but they got to stop them from breeding. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go to turn off the water to the whole building, They get interrupted by a security guard played by Rick Dukeman, who is in a bunch of very funny movies, including Used Cars, as we've talked about before, and The Burbs.
Yeah.
And he's stopping these fucking terries. He suggests that they are terrorists,
Yeah.
And makes them open the bag. And the googly eye gremlin leaps out of it and starts biting his face, and then escapes.
I think this is like he says, we got to stop him before he eats something. And the guard goes, he just did eat something, pointing at his nose.
Yeah.
I think that counts because we don't see googly eye eat anything, but he comes back as a gremlin.
That's true. Yeah.
I think human flesh counts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I hadn't put that together, but sure. Yeah, I believe it. So anyway, Kate and Billy get arrested. Googly Eye gets away, and we see the cocoons of the 3 other bad mogwai who are going to become gremlins in the same area as the big water standpipe.
So finally, the movie's about to start.
Yeah, we are literally an hour in.
No, this whole movie has like a bell curve graph of chaos, and we're at the point where it's starting to go up dramatically.
We are just at the inflection point.
And it's going to go straight up.
Yeah, it is absolutely nuts. Yeah, it's not a bell curve, it is a hockey stick graph.
Yeah.
So then we cut to 6 hours later when Kate is bailing Billy out of the police station.
A great way of like cutting through all the bullshit.
Yeah.
Like we want to see gremlins. We don't want to see cocoons. Billy goes to jail, gets bailed out. It's gremlin time.
Yeah. And so she bails him out. They head back to the tower because they need to talk to security because there are going to be fucking gremlins around, obviously. And we also get intercuts with the gremlins hatching, which always looks horrible.
Always looks
all of the gremlin process
it's disgusting.
Is incredibly gross. Like they I don't know.
How do they do it when you know you're watching a comedy, but you're still like, ugh. Like it still turns your stomach a little bit. It's really impressive. Just goo and things peeling apart, whatever. So they get back to the building. Just before they get back to the building, Gizmo is wandering around in the vents and then escapes the vents and gets captured by the gremlins. Yeah, he lands right as they're hatching.
Yeah.
And immediately the spiky one's like, okay, I'm gonna make my whole personality fucking with this guy.
Yeah.
Until I become a spider.
Until my whole personality becomes Angel of Death and being a spider.
Pretty fucking cool gremlin, let's not lie.
Pretty awesome gremlin. So Billy and Kate get into the building and they run into Uncle Fred, and he's complaining about how the building's completely screwed up today because like power's browning out and just like weird alerts are going off. They head to the security office and Billy tries to explain the rules of gremlins to the people in the security office. They understandably act like he's insane.
Yeah, they think it's hilarious.
And bring up all of the insane issues with the rules, which apparently Joe Dante, like they had these conversations when they were making the first movie about.
I'm sure they did.
Like, okay, so what if they get something stuck in their teeth at 11:30 and then it comes out after midnight? Does that count as eating? What if they cross a time zone?
Yeah.
You know, all that shit. And everybody's acting like it's idiotic because it is. And
great fourth wall breaking. Third wall?
And
which wall? I never remember which wall gets broken.
That's the fourth wall.
Fourth wall, okay.
Yeah. Kate is leading a tour group through the building, which Gere Watanabe is in, who is another really good actor who doesn't get as much work as he used to. But he is playing a thing that no longer exists in our world, the Japanese tourist stereotype.
Yeah.
Just cameras, flash bulbs. I mean, it was a real thing back then in terms of, hugely popular stereotypes to depict.
Right.
And now does not exist.
Well, that reminds me, speaking of Asian cultural appropriation, of which there is a little bit in this movie. But there's also like Gizmo had a morning armband on for the beginning part of the show when his when Mr. Wing died. I Googled it. Apparently, it's a real thing in China that when your parent passes away, you wear an armband to like mourn them. And I thought that was kind of a cool little thing to throw in there for the little Gizmo.
Wait, Mr. Wing fucked Gizmo's mom?
It wasn't really the point of that.
That's fucked up.
Go with that. Sure.
So Billy's trying to explain this shit to the security office. Kate's leading this tour. We go through the cable channel stages, and we get to see a taping of Microwave with Marge.
Yeah.
It's an easy meal preparation show. And this is when the chaos just ramps the fuck out, and nothing is normal from this second.
They build it up so this movie is paced so fucking well, and like Marge is making her gross little microwave snacks, and then the power browns out, and you're like, what's that? I don't know. Yeah. Let's keep going. Then she opens the pot to stir her processed cheese gumbo or whatever the fuck it is.
Googly eyes leaps out of the egg noodles.
Yeah.
Covered in egg noodles.
And shit goes... Yeah, we're at 11 for the rest of the movie, basically.
Yeah, shit goes immediately sideways and doesn't stop for another 40 minutes when the credits roll.
Yeah.
I mean, so, all the evil gremlins are there. They're fucking with Marge and, attacking her. And
when Marge runs away, she grabs her bottle of liquor.
Grabs the bottle of sherry she was cooking with.
She's not leaving it behind.
Fuck no. And they do a bunch of slapstick bullshit, loading a microwave with all sorts of metal pots.
Extra stupid gremlin is always hurting cigar smoking gremlin.
Yeah.
Or thug gremlin, whatever we're calling him. It happens a lot, and he always looks at the camera and goes, duh. Or whatever the fuck.
Oh, and Mohawk, the Stripe analog, sees the microwave and is like, microwave. Which microwaves were in the first movie as well as a thing.
One of them blew up in it. That was one of the more famous scenes. It's important to remember that gremlins are a hive mind and remember anything that any gremlin has ever experienced. So.
Yeah, they have all of the knowledge they need at any given point to either make the joke or attack something.
Yes, that allows them to be endlessly self-referential, which is very important when making a sequel.
Yes. So they load the microwave with metal. It explodes, sets off the fucking fire sprinklers, and suddenly, now we've got a real problem. We go back to the security office. They're watching on the monitors. The pest sensors have gone off like crazy on floor 60 or whatever it was. And then suddenly Mohawk bursts out of a control panel and eats a security guy's face.
Actually, I think that happened the first time when they were making fun of the rules.
They cut back and they're still making fun and asking about the rules and shit.
Yeah, because it's kind of unexpected. In fact, you were shocked when we watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude's just like making jokes and then blah, bursts out of the control panel, kills the guy.
Yeah, and suddenly they believe Billy. And suddenly there are tons of fucking Grammys.
There are Grammys everywhere.
Yeah, Grammys all over the place. And now, a huge chunk of the rest of the movie is just a fucking montage of VGAs of gremlins doing crazy bullshit.
Yeah, the second half of the movie is basically a montage.
Yeah, we cut to Clamp's office. He's fucking, his secretary's shredding stuff. He's dictating memos to her.
Though this is an important scene for the anti-CEO message, because he is doing jack fuck when we cut to his office. He's literally bored, kicking the dirt around.
Maybe we do some memos. I love memos.
Yeah, he's looking through his telescope, and he gets excited to do memos because he doesn't have anything else to do because CEOs don't do shit.
Yeah.
Elon Musk owns 5 companies. You can't own 5 companies and have any useful hand in what's happening in those companies.
Yeah, it's not good. So he's dictating memos to a secretary. We see a gremlin hand reach over the edge of a desk and stick a loaded mouse trap into a sandwich the secretary is eating.
Classic shit.
Yeah. Off screen, she yelps. He comes out of his office and is like, "What was that?" And there is a gremlin sitting in the secretary's desk wearing her cardigan and just like pounding on a keyboard going blah 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 blah.
He says the ABCs a little bit.
Yeah. And he ends up getting bit by the gremlin and then fighting it and jams it into the paper shredder.
Great way to kill a gremlin.
Yeah, great way. It just, it's fucking green goo everywhere. It's beautiful. And apparently this was originally Googly Eye Gremlin.
Oh, good thing.
But right before they shot it, Joe Dante decided, no, Googly Eye's too fun.
Yeah, we love
him around. Yeah.
Rewatching this, I was surprised at how much I was on Googly Eye's side. Like, I wanted him. I didn't expect him to be my favorite. That's all I'm pointing out.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then Billy and Forster show up and are like, "Are you okay, sir?" And he's like, "I guess." And they explain, there be some Grammys. And he says, go back to, they're going to go back to the security office and try to take care of it. And they, head off. He stays in his office and he's going to take a shower. He exits the movie for like 25 minutes.
Yeah. And when he comes back, he is in a bathrobe drying his hair.
Yeah.
Fucking useless.
We do some more montage shit where Leonard Maltin gets eaten by gremlins as he's reviewing.
I Googled
Gremlins 1.
I Googled his review of the original Gremlins. And yeah, it was bad. He did not care for the original. And apparently he's good friends with Joe Dante, and it like caused a rift in their relationship.
Aw.
And this was, I keep triggering my phone when I say the G word. This was went part of the way to like mending that rift. So that's nice. And apparently he gave a good review to Gremlins 2.
Understandably. I mean, he is in it.
Yeah.
We
did mention the cameos too when he.
Yeah. So, yeah, Leonard Maltin gets eaten by gremlins while he's giving a bad review to the video release of the first Gremlins movie. We get some cuts of like Mohawk torturing Gizmo some more. And then we cut back to one of the most important parts of the film, which is Splice of Life. We haven't seen them for like 30 minutes. And we get the development of a gremlin made of vegetables. A brainy gremlin who is voiced by Tony Randall and is maybe the greatest fictional character ever created.
He's fantastic.
He's got the like fucking waspy intellectual talk show guest.
Yeah. And at one point is a talk show guest.
Is a talk show guest. And Christopher Lee's negotiating with him, like, I can get you diseases. You'd like that, wouldn't you?
I also wanted to point out something I didn't notice when we watched it. Vegetable Gremlin, who it's a great shot. He's got vegetables popping out on his head. There's only a couple gags you're going to do with Vegetable Gremlin. So to ramp him up a little bit, they made him constantly burp. So
yes, he is constantly burping. Yeah.
He's constantly belching, which is so stupid. He is involved with exactly 2 gags after this, and they're both pretty quality.
They really are. So Brain Gremlin, realizing what's going on in this genetics lab, injects another gremlin with a bat syringe, and then
while giving like this pseudo-intellectual monologue about being all you can be and whatnot. It's so
we must explore this world and make it our own. Oh, I see this syringe is bat, common order Chiroptera, and as I'm sure you know, is the only true flying mammal. And injects it turns it into a fucking bat thing, and then injects it with genetic sunscreen because, as he says, our ethnic group doesn't do too well in the sunlight.
We don't burn, we don't tan, more just become a pile of photogenic leftovers or whatever.
Yeah. So then the Bat Gremlin is now proof against the sun, which was apparently a thing that that's another thing that they realized when they were filming this part. Like, oh wait, if we're gonna send the fucking Bat Gremlin out, it's gonna die like immediately as it leaves because it's sunlight out there. I don't know. Put a syringe with sunscreen in it.
Yeah.
Okay, make it up real quick. So
surprising that Brain Gremlin didn't think to inject more of the gremlins with it, but who cares?
Yeah.
Also, it wouldn't have mattered. They didn't die from sunlight in the end.
Yeah, that's true. So, Bat Gremlin exits the wall, leaving a perfect Batman 89 bat symbol.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to a popular movie of the time.
Yeah, another WB movie.
Yeah.
And also a movie that is related to the release of this film, oddly enough. Let's see, where was I? Oh, yeah. So then we get tons of other shit. Is this where we get Electric Gremlins later. So
Bat's pretty much a self-contained story. I think he goes immediately out, sees Futterman, and
it's a little while later, but pretty much. It's like another couple little montage cuts. So yeah, Bat Gremlin exits. The Futtermans are looking at St. Pat's Cathedral, although they call it Saint Eva Marie, which is a fun joke about Eva Marie Saint.
Yeah. I didn't get that till just now, but yes.
Yeah. Bat Gremlin attacks Futterman. He throws it in some wet concrete that's being poured. It flies up onto the cathedral, perches, and then turns solid because it's still covered in concrete. And then it becomes a new gargoyle, and it's a perfect bit.
A great bit. I really appreciated that one as a kid. I thought that was the coolest fucking way to kill a gremlin.
It's truly meant like this little, like you could take out the like two scenes between Bat Gremlin exiting and arriving at the cathedral, and you would have a perfectly contained, 3-minute short film of perfect. There's nothing more you can do with this. So, Bat Gremlin's taken care of. Then we get some more gizmo torture.
I don't want to derail this too much by bringing up every little fucking thing that comes to mind, but Brainy Gremlin, when he's injecting the bat serum into the Bat Gremlin, Brainy Gremlin is very smart. He's also really fucking mean, and he really stabs him in the throat. And that comes up again later. Brainy Gremlin may be smart, but he is very cruel.
Yes, that is certainly true.
His intelligence has not made him any less a gremlin.
Yes. Yeah, that's going to be coming up in a few minutes. We get some more gizmo torture. Then Christopher Lee runs into Billy in the hallways. He starts giving this big speech about how the gremlins are taking over the DNA lab, etc. And then the film breaks and your movie's over.
Oh, God, yeah.
Except it's not. So we have a simulated film burning and breakage with then gremlins silhouetted behind the screen of the movie theater you're in. And fortunately, this movie theater also happens to have Hulk Hogan in it. So the Hulkster, a wrestler turned actor turned cultural icon, threatens the Gremsters, and they put the movie back on.
Turned propagandist.
There were sort of 3 versions of this. One is the one that we saw and is currently available on Max. There was another version. There was a different version on video where instead of being, I think it was Volleyball Holiday or whatever, a nudist volleyball film from the 1960s that the Gremlins put in, it was Chisholm with John Wayne with, I don't know, it was a weird shit.
A little more safe for work.
Yeah. And then in the novelization of Gremlins 2, which was written by David Bischoff, who's a real, serious science fiction writer, getting a great paycheck for this, I assume. So in the movie, the narrative splits where the Brain Gremlin takes over. or in the book, suddenly at this point, Brain Gremlin is writing it and putting a bunch of shit about David Bischoff in it because Bischoff is currently trapped in a bathroom.
That's awesome.
And the Brain Gremlin took over his office, I guess, and
That's
then
fucking
eventually,
fantastic.
eventually Bischoff uses an axe to get out and takes back over.
That's impossible to film, kind of, but I like the idea a lot.
Yeah, it's I was unable to find it online. I would love to find a copy of the Gremlins 2 novelization somewhere
I think it's very important that they didn't overuse Brain Gremlin, and they didn't.
I mean, he is the most used,
But yet I want more.
but yeah, it's perfect.
It is also like they did for the version we watched. They used nudist beach ball movie.
Yeah.
When the gremlin has the film and he's looking at it, he's giggling, going, "Ha ha ha! Nudie, nudie, nudie."
Yeah. So after that, we cut back to the movie proper after the Hulkster leaves.
Actually, you have that scene in the theater where the mom comes running out and says,
"Oh yeah."
I just wanted to bring that up because the guy who's like running the theater in that little cutaway, who actually eventually goes and talks to the Hulkster. So I guess it is before that. I like that guy is surely somebody. So I Googled who it was, and he is an actor and director. He directed a lot of B movies. His name is Paul Bartel.
Yes, yeah.
The biggest one of which was Death Race 2000.
Yeah, yeah. Like, this movie is absolutely chock fucking full of, holy shit, it's that guy. If you are familiar with fucking B movies from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, he wrote he directed several like drag queen movies and looks like possibly some kind of softcore stuff. Yeah, I thought that was cool because he said, "We just show the movies, madam. We don't make them." And then looks at the camera as if to say, "I am a director and I make movies."
Yes,
and turns out he is.
And apparently, that was based on specific things that Joe Dante had gotten complaints about for the first Gremlins movie, where people took their kids to it because
Gizmo got a cute mogwai.
Cute. Yeah. But yeah, this movie is absolutely chock full of people from especially the Roger Corman American International Pictures movies, because that's where Joe Dante came out of. Yeah. That's, him and fucking Spielberg and all those guys worked for Roger Corman for years and years. Yeah, that's
the projectionist looked like somebody too.
He was in the first movie. I think he was in the first movie.
He's been in
as somebody else.
He was in Big Top Pee-wee.
Ooh,
so that's pretty important. He's in Hellraiser Bloodline. We love a Hellraiser.
Yeah. Hey, is that the one that has Adam Scott in it?
I don't remember.
I think it is.
Yeah, he's been in so much, especially in the 60s.
Yeah. So, we go back to the real movie, the non fourth wall breaking movie, and we see Uncle Fred wandering around the control room for all the broadcasts. He sees some news reports from outside the building, and then sees his chance to actually report, and grabs Getty Watanabe, saying, "Can you operate a camera?"
I am a camera.
Yeah.
Cyberpunk.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the most cyberpunk part of the movie, a gremlin becomes electric.
Yes.
A random gremlin is injected with a syringe that has a lightning bolt on it and becomes an animated lightning bolt. And honestly, the effects are much better on this than fucking Gizmo dancing.
Yeah, they're not bad. I buy them. Even by today's standards, I buy them.
Yeah, it's a real solid bit of business. And then we get a ton more just random fucking gremlin things. Like, one of my absolute favorite jokes, possibly in the history of film, is a gremlin is looking into a cabinet.
Yes, this
of the jars
as well.
One of the jars says, "Acid, do not throw in face." The gremlin turns, throws it in the next gremlin's face. The gremlin screams, clutches its face, turns away from the camera, then pulls up a Phantom of the Opera mask and turns back to the camera.
Which, as we stated on the watch along, the gremlin knew what was coming, and it was willing to take acid in the face to do the bit and become the Phantom of the Opera. He committed to the bit, and for that,
absolutely
I have the most respect for him.
Yeah,
that joke, ever since I was a wee 12-year-old lad, is the most perfect joke in movies. You might be right.
Yeah, it is beautiful, and it is singular. And then Billy and Christopher Lee are infiltrating the genetics laboratory because Christopher Lee has a bunch of guns in there, because why not?
Yeah.
And we see at this point we are introduced to Sexy Lady Gremlin.
Oh yes.
There's just a sexy lady gremlin. She looks like Jessica Rabbit, but a gremlin.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to. And
use your imagination. That's probably what it looks like.
Yeah, pretty much exactly that. So they go to the firearms cabinet. A gremlin leaps out, pulls the flesh off of Christopher Lee's arm.
Degloves him.
Degloves him, basically like, some teeth scraping a Kit Kat.
Yum. Fucking starving.
Yeah. Then he gets killed by the electric gremlin.
R.I.P. Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
You're wonderful.
Yeah. Yes, beautiful. And then Mohawk the gremlin gets an Uzi.
Was it Mohawk or was it the cigar one? It was Mohawk.
It was Mohawk.
This is just one more example of you're like, man, there's a lot of crazy shit happening. What could be worse? I guess if they had automatic weapons.
Yeah. And Billy barely escapes, and Mohawk kills like 5 gremlins.
He doesn't even kill them. He punctures them, and then they laugh.
Yeah, they're having a great time. They're squirting water out. And then we cut to Gizmo. He's tied up on a little train track. And he escapes his bonds. And then for the next little while, we're going to occasionally intercut to Gizmo becoming Rambo. Like he's doing a pump up montage.
Yeah.
So we go back to Clamp's office. He's coming out of the shower. He sees Uncle Fred on TV, says, "Dracula?" So Billy goes to Clamp's office, and he sees the electrical outlet like jittering, and Billy manages to trap the electric gremlin in the call holding phone system,
causing him to become a ghost in the machine.
Yes, and keep that in mind. It's going to be important in 30 minutes. I don't know. All this shit happens so
10,
fast.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's impossible to say. Like, the back half of this movie gets insane in terms of how much narrative ground you're covering.
This part is also one of my favorite parts of the movie. When after this electoral thing happens, Clamp's like, "Wow, we're really fucked, aren't we?" It's like, "Well, I thought I'd never have to run this tape, but here he goes." And he puts a tape in, and it starts broadcasting on his network. And I wrote it down, but I kind of think like that's a perfect ending quote for this. So I don't know if I want to burn the quote now of just what the tape says.
I also wrote it down.
Right.
Let's
save it for the end.
And maybe the beginning of the episode too.
We'll see. There's so many to choose from for the opening.
There's a lot of great shit. Apparently that tape is based on a real thing they had at CNN.
Oh, wow.
A real PSA they made. Once, specifically, it was required that whenever they put it in, they had to have verified the world was ending. Nobody has ever seen this tape that I am aware of, but so that's a real thing.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah. So,
so good. And Clamp's crying as he watches it.
Yeah. He's done such an amazing job. He's so proud of his whole thing.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd see it.
He says, "Isn't that beautiful?" And Billy goes, "Very uplifting." Anyway,
Sir. So Billy has an idea. So basically the idea is, because this building is totally automated, they're going to set the clocks forward like 3 hours so that they convince the gremlins it's night outside. If they can get Clamp outside to set up like a big tarp in front of the building to, again, convince the gremlins that it's night outside, all the gremlins will gather in the lobby to stream out, and then they can drop the tarp and melt them all in the sunlight. It's a beautiful plan.
mm-hmm.
So now Clamp has a real, he has a real way to go with this, and he takes his secret exit system. He's very excited about it.
Yeah, he's got something to do.
Yeah.
Once again, has not come up with a single idea on his own.
Nope, not even a bit. Oh, yeah, and in here, we also see a Mohawk Gremlin listening to Angel of Death by Slayer and turning into a spider.
It is badass.
It is fucking cool. So it is deeply fucking cool. And at this point, we see Marla again for the first time in 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. She's wandering down a hallway, bitching to herself about how her computer isn't working right.
And the lights are out.
And the lights are out. And then she runs into a gigantic spider web.
This is when the voiceover is talking about how we're monitoring your keystrokes for maximum efficiency. And she's like, should I pound on him in the dock?
Yeah. So Clamp gets out. Murray sneaks into the building using Clamp's secret exit.
It's funny though, when Clamp pops out, like there are reporters there waiting for him, and that's when he immediately like straightens his tie and does what the only thing he's actually good at, which is press.
Yeah, pretty much. So Billy's running around trying to make shit work inside the building. He gets marathon manned by googly eyed gremlin. He is strapped to a dentist chair and is about to be drilled on.
A true hero. We stand.
Yeah. So then Murray is walking
googly
by.
eyes puffing that nitrous too.
Oh yeah.
They should have shown a clip of him just taking a big old breathful.
Yeah, that would have made sense. So Murray's going by. He hears Billy like struggling and then saves him by throwing googly eye in a trash can. And then we get one of my favorite parts of the movie, which there are a lot of favorite parts of this movie. Uncle Fred is interviewing Brainy Gremlin on a talk show.
So good.
And he is giving, like, Uncle Fred is playing serious talk show interviewer, like, the fairly serious kind, like Dick Cavett, So what do you creatures want? And, that type of thing.
Is it okay if I call you creature?
Yeah. And Brainy Gremlin is giving his best, like combination of fucking Truman Capote and Michel Foucault. Like,
we want just what you have, civilization.
Intellectual talk show guest thing. Did you write down the whole thing?
No, I wish I had. It was too long.
Yeah.
I would love to monologue it right now. We'll see if it's in the quotes.
Yeah. So he's giving this explanation.
Oh, it is. It's the first quote.
Okay. Good deal.
Actually, go to IMDb. We'll play it out. I'll be Brain Gremlin.
Okay, here we go. Creature, what is it you want?
Fred, what we want, I think, is what everyone wants and what you and your reviewers have. Civilization.
Yes, but what sort of civilization are you speaking of?
The niceties, Fred, the fine points, diplomacy, compassion, standards, manners, tradition. That's what we're reaching toward. Oh, we may stumble along the way, but civilization, yes, the Geneva Convention, chamber music, Susan Sontag, everything your society has worked so hard to accomplish over the centuries. That's what we aspire to. We want to be civilized. A gremlin with a beanie cap acts goofy next to Brain. Now take a good look at this fellow here. Shoots him in the head with a gun.
Yeah, just pulls a revolver out of his jacket and blows this other gremlin in a beanie away point blank.
Now, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but in no sense civilized. Now, bear in mind, none of us have been to New York before. There are Broadway shows. We'll have to find out how to get tickets. But there's also a lot of street crime, but I believe we can watch that for free. We want the essentials, dinettes, complete bedroom groups, convenient credit, even though we've been turned down in the past.
Another perfect bit of comedy.
Shooting that fucking beanie gremlin with a revolver is so fucking funny.
It is, yeah, it is the peak of comedy, I think. Yeah, it's truly beautiful. Yeah, I wrote this part as while Dracula interviews Brainy Gremlin, ellipsis, we want civilization. Punchline, revolver. So Kate's going down a hallway. She frees Marla. They are both being menaced by the spider gremlin now. And then Gizmo saves the day as Rambo, having made a bow and arrow out of a paperclip, rubber band, pencil, and bottle of whiteout.
Yes, and if you'll allow me a moment of indulgence, by doing so, Gizmo overcomes his own self-doubt, killing the gremlin that had harrowed him the worst all this time.
Yeah. So yeah, the spider gremlin is immolated. It's great. And then Billy and Murray come down the hall, and they're all reunited. They go to a room, and Kate gives an idiotic speech about Abraham Lincoln.
Well, Murray says, like, we can't give up. Washington didn't give up. Lincoln didn't give up. And then
don't talk to me about Lincoln.
Triggers Kate.
She goes on to give an absolutely insane story about how she was at a park at the age of 6 or 7. There was a guy who looked exactly like Abraham Lincoln wearing a trench coat. The implication is that he flashed her, whatever. And
thankfully,
Billy,
they don't get that deep into the story.
Like mid-sentence, Billy ushers her off screen, saying, "Okay, yeah, let's go. We can deal with that later."
Also, in the background, he and Murray are looking at each other, like rolling their eyes, like we don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, they know. Oh, we're just doing the greatest hits of the last movie. Yeah. Okay. So now that it's night, quote marks, or at least it looks like night, the Gremlins have now gathered in the lobby.
Hey, real quick before we get into this, can I point out a joke we missed?
Oh, sure.
That I laughed at really hard this morning when I was watching it. It's back a little bit when Kate was stuck in the elevator, and they just cutting back to her, and it was kind of a moment of silence, and she's like huddled in the elevator, and it's quiet, and she goes, "Elevator sound alarm," and all the Gremlins start going. It's just a stupid little joke that I loved.
And then, there are actually very good bits in that elevator with Kate where she's, she's pressed herself up into a corner, and then gremlin hands burst out of the walls by her ankles and grab her legs and say, "Wishbone."
Yeah. Hair.
Yeah, this movie is chock full of blink and you'll miss it jokes.
Yeah.
So the Gremlins are now in the lobby, all of them, and they decide to do a Busby Berkeley dance number to New York, New York. It is some of the most incredible, like, I think this is probably where I said we used to be a country.
Yeah. The amount of puppetry happening in this moment.
Like, there are, 150 individual gremlins all doing their own shit. Like, deep in the background.
Yeah.
And the camera's panning across them. There are dance numbers. I mean...
Lady Gremlin comes back.
Lady Gremlin arrives. There's a conga line. The Gremlins have fucking Acme brand TNT and missiles and chainsaws. They've got a diagram and a plan to kill the Statue of Liberty. One of the Gremlins is getting a giant tattoo of the WB shield on its chest.
Yeah, and they both look at the camera after getting the tattoo as if to say, like, literally, "Fuck you, WB."
It's hilarious. There, everything is going great. It's New York, New York. And suddenly they're gonna, they're about to drop the fucking tarp because all the Gremlins are there, but a storm has rolled in. Oh no, it suddenly got cloudy. Shit. The sun's not gonna save them. Oh yeah, and then right now we get the Phantom of the Opera bit.
Oh yeah.
Because over in a corner of the lobby, there is a cellar with an organ.
Who cares? It's Clamp's building. Anything you need is in here. That's why it's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, there is the Phantom of the Opera gremlin playing the organ. And then gremlin in a dress comes up behind it and freaks it out, and it looks like Phantom of the Opera. It's beautiful. It's perfect.
And then he runs right at the camera and fades to the next scene.
Yeah. So Billy, because the sun isn't going to save him, Billy has an idea. Sends Futterman to grab a fire hose. And then basically they're in the lobby as well on like an upper floor. Futterman hits the gremlins with the fire hose, which seems like a bad idea because that's when they reproduce, right?
Yeah, this is an all-in plan. It either works or they're truly fucked.
It works or the world ends.
Yeah. Which, by the way, man, I would not mind a sequel where they get out and just terrorize New York. What would happen?
I would love to see it.
They got you've seen zombie movies. These guys multiply faster than zombies. Every puddle is making another
and they're
gremlin.
more fun than zombies.
They're a lot more fun than zombies. Plus, it's about to start raining. Like, imagine those guys getting out into the rain. Like, you're literally have an overrun world.
Yeah. So Futterman hits the fire hose right as Brain Gremlin is screaming, "New York!" Dun, 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 dun. All the gremlins then do the melt bubbles, the horrible...
Yeah, you didn't even mention why.
The horrible spawning thing. I'll get to the thing. They're getting wet.
Oh, okay. You're right. I'm backwards.
Yeah. Like, it's terrible. Just like they have these fucking boils with like little gremlins in them bursting off their backs.
It's really good special effects. And they make the little sound whenever one's popping off the back.
Yeah. One is shampooing.
Yeah, he's enjoying it. They love it. It's like having sex to them. They're basically all coming right now.
Yeah. I think okay. I swear to God, I wrote something about gremlins getting off.
Yeah. They're definitely like 500 gremlins coming in the lobby of this building.
Yeah. And then the second part of the plan, Billy frees the Electro Gremlin into the lobby.
Our hero.
Off the phone. Electro Gremlin electrocutes everybody. So they all get cooked and fucking melt.
Which, some people like that when they're reaching climax. Like autoerotic asphyxiation, maybe a little bit of electrical play. This could be good for them.
Yeah.
They don't seem to hate it.
They hate it less than you might think. Yeah. And all of the melting effects are the grossest shit I've ever seen in my life.
I feel bad.
Like, it is every fucking gremlin we've seen, with one exception, melts and like turns into horrible fucking skeletons that then explode and like become terrible puddles on the floor.
This is the part where the one cigar smoking gremlin, like puffing that cigar down till just his little snout, the cigar is sticking vertical. Yeah, it's good stuff. The brainy gremlin dies continuing to sing. He like commits till the end. And then as he passes, you can hear like Tony Randall's singing "I'm Melting Away" in the background.
Oh yeah, and there's also a little Wizard of Oz visionary.
Yeah, they put that dress up on for the time when they eventually knew they would be melted and could use that bit.
Yeah, because gremlins are nothing if not self-aware.
Yeah.
So all the gremlins, with one exception that we haven't mentioned.
Although I wonder what happened to Lightning Gremlin. I guess it was just too much for him and he burned up.
Yeah, I think Lightning Gremlin didn't have that was the end of, that was a short.
Yeah.
He eventually grounded out.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So Clamp leads a SWAT team in. They do the hut thing. As in, we found out immediately before the show, Blues Brothers.
We think it's from Blues Brothers. Yeah, it could have been before that, but
yeah, I couldn't immediately remember what that bit was from. But Clamp comes in with the SWAT team with Dean Norris leading it.
Yeah. Second appearance on our show.
Is that right? Yeah.
One more, man.
And he will be making a third in Terminator 2.
Nice.
As SWAT captain again.
Cast.
Yeah, so they come in. Clamp is like, oh, great, everything's taken care of. Clamp gives Uncle Fred a weekend anchor position. Everything's working out great. Dean Norris shoots a shotgun into the floor.
It moved,
saying,
sir.
It moved. Marla gets promoted to the head of PR. Clamp is going to write down some notes, and he sees this picture that Billy had drawn of Kingston Falls, their hometown, and he decides that this is what people want. We're going to develop it over in Jersey, which Clamp owns.
All of Jersey.
And he explains, and this is kind of a weirdly cyberpunk thing. He says, maybe this building wasn't for people. Maybe this building was for things. And if you build a place for things, things will come. Yeah. Which is, I don't know, maybe the moral. I'm not sure. So then Clamp gets a phone call from Forrester. He is trapped in a bathroom somewhere way high up with the lady gremlin.
Oh, baby.
And
she lived.
Gremlins begin howling the wedding march in the background.
You think there are actual gremlins there to play at her wedding, or do you think they just from the grave?
I think they're from the grave.
Is it part of the hive mind? She can project their voices.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. I like the idea of lore existing, even if it's all complete nonsense.
Yeah. She is wearing a wedding dress and looks luminous.
She does.
Robert Picardo's face is covered with lipstick smooch marks. And he kind of looks at the camera and is like, it's a paycheck.
Smiles rakishly and slides down out of frame.
And then the last image of the film proper is Lady Gremlin zooming into the camera to smooch.
Yeah, I believe that POV was from his dick.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry.
Yeah,
don't need to go into details.
And then if you stay watching during the credits, Daffy Duck pops in midway a couple of times.
Yeah,
just yelling at the credits. He says, "Long, isn't it? This is patently ridiculous."
Classic Daffy.
Still looking around? Don't you people have homes? And then Porky tries to do the that's all folks thing, but Daffy interrupts it again, and the movie's over, and we have had the greatest experience possibly of our lives.
Oh God, that's high praise.
So would you like to hear about how this movie did?
Yes, let's do it with rapidity.
Quick. Yes. Okay. So number one, this movie cost somewhere between $30 and $50 million. No specific, haven't been able to find any specific numbers for that. It made $41.5 million in the U.S. total.
How much did it cost again?
Between 30 and 50 million.
And it made 41.5, so that's not a huge profit.
Then it made pretty much the exact same number internationally, like within, I don't know, several $1,000s, which was interesting. Its opening weekend, it made $9.7 million. Would you like to hear about the opening weekend?
Yeah.
It is an incredible opening weekend that I have seen every fucking single one of the top 10 films. And you probably, or at least very possibly, have to.
Okay.
So, and the reason that I said the Batman logo related to the opening weekend of this movie was counter-programmed to June 15th, 1990, specifically to counter the release of the number one movie. It was a comic book movie. Do you have any guesses? Big, what was expected to be a huge movie, 1990, starring a 65-year-old man.
Shit.
And
Tracy?
Exactly.
Oh, I nailed it? Awesome.
You fucking nailed it. So this movie, Joe Dante says that this movie was put out on this weekend specifically to counter, hopefully, Dick Tracy's opening weekend to preserve Batman 1989's record as the largest opening weekend in history at that point. They were worried that Dick Tracy would make more money, so they wanted to counter program it.
Weird.
So, yeah, number one movie, Dick Tracy, made $22 million that weekend. Number two movie, it's a two-hander, kind of an action comedy with one of the big comedy stars of the 1980s and 90s, and also a homeless man. No, but you're not terribly far off of Sinbad.
I don't know. You have to tell me.
Another 48 Hours.
Oh, yeah. A homeless man.
Yes.
Okay, that's...
Yeah. So that was number two. It made $10 million. It was the second week. Number three, a movie we are going to do on this podcast based on a Philip Dick story.
I think I know.
Directed by Paul Verhoeven.
What is it?
Total Recall.
Okay, that's not the one I was thinking of, but yeah.
Yeah. That made about $10 million. Then opening at number 4, Gremlins 2.
Wow.
Total Recall was in its second week. Number 3, another, not really, but close, but you could argue it, cyberpunk movie. It's the third movie in a series, third and final, I guess. It has cowboys in it for seemingly no reason.
Back to the Future 3?
Back to the Future 3.
Nice.
It was in its third week and made $5 million.
Yeah, that was a crazy week.
Yeah, I have seen literally every one of these movies. It's definitely, like, a lot of the time when we do this, I look at these lists and go, well, I do not know what half of these are, but this was a hot fucking weekend.
Okay, let's rate this film. We have 5 categories here. The first 4, we rate 1 through 10. First category, we're going to rate Gremlins 2 on story. Now, of all the categories, it doesn't have a lot of a story. That's not really why we're here.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of a story, but this is an incredible achievement in that almost everything you ever see on screen or hear is either punchline or setup.
Yeah.
It's so fucking tight.
The story is a joke delivery mechanism.
Yeah.
But the plot is, building taken over by, instead of terrorists, gremlins.
Yeah.
And instead of John McClane, we have Billy Peltzer and co.
Yeah. I honestly think for what you're doing, like, they set this movie up perfectly. Apparently, at one point in one of the early drafts of Joe Dante scripts, they were going to have a John McClane type character pop in like the third act.
That'd be funny.
Possibly, somebody who was hosting a show on one of the cable networks, and they were going to have it played by Charles Napier, who is another incredible classic B-movie actor. And then later, after this, was the voice of Duke on the Critic.
Yeah.
Honestly, in terms of story, this movie's pretty fucking simple, but boy, the execution is dead on. There is not a wasted instant in this film. It's like the first Men in Black movie that way. So I'm going to give it story 8. I mean,
I think that's generous. I was going to give it a 6, just because, but I'm more married to the category because for judging on story, it just doesn't have much of one, which doesn't detract from the movie. These categories are dumb.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have much of a story. But that's fine.
I think if we take this movie at its face as this story is a mechanism to do live action Looney Tunes bullshit with insane puppets, it executed it flawlessly.
Let's do influence, which is surprisingly high for a movie that's set in 1990. I think the depictions of what CEO, what these oligarchs were and definitely became more openly is spot on. I think their depictions of like Clamp as this monopolistic company that
corporate
takes
culture.
over everything, and its corporate culture is spot on. I mean, it was popping off at the time, but it's really gotten out of control now. I think their malfunctioning tech and the enshittification of tech, it was weirdly prescient. So I'm just gonna give it. Well, I skipped a K. I went to prescience before influence, but I'm gonna give it a 9 for prescience.
I think that is very reasonable, especially, and 9 is what I'll go with too. Especially when you consider, like, I don't think in 1990 that we were to the actual point where we had the the hands-free sinks and toilet flushers.
Yeah,
like they foresaw what was going to happen and how bad it was going to be.
Yeah, you're right. Influence, I don't know that this movie had any.
This movie has, in my mind, 2 influence.
Okay.
I'm going to rate it a 2, and that is almost exclusively because of the Key and Peele sketch.
Oh, yeah, that gives it a couple points for sure.
Yeah.
Style, I'm giving it a 10. I don't care. It's it's weird and crazy, but it's got style. You can't, even if a lot of it's ripped off from Looney Tunes, it's a Warner Brothers property. They can rip Looney Tunes off if they want.
Yeah. This movie is weirdly dripping with style, especially also Phoebe Cates' tour guide outfit.
Yeah, Phoebe Cates' tour guide outfit. But even if you're talking about like filmmaking style, just the fourth wall breaking and the self-referencing, and it's just oozing with it. So
yeah, it's great.
1 to 5 hand raisers. I have to give it a 5. I hate to sound like a broken record. I think you said on a previous episode we can't dock something points for being too good. So
yeah, it's this is close to a perfect movie, if not actually a perfect movie.
Yeah,
like
tidy up that green screening, and you've got a perfect movie.
Yeah, it's clearly the point of this movie is visual joke delivery system, and everything either sets up a visual joke or pays off a visual joke. We're done. The maths.
The maths. If you are a listener who doesn't watch these things, you think, I saw Gremlins 2 when I was a kid, I don't need to watch it before listening to this episode. Hopefully we have convinced you to go watch it again. You'll not be disappointed. It's just, of all the jokes we mentioned here, there are a dozen others that we didn't spoil and are just as funny. So
yeah, it's truly incredible. I could happily watch it again right this minute.
Yeah. All right. We have got to go. We are not going to be in the office. We're not going to be putting episodes out next week because I'm traveling. And the weekend after that is the big holiday that Christians love to celebrate, and some other people.
Yeah.
Multiple holidays.
President's Day?
Yeah.
Don't talk to me about it.
The bright side is that we are hoping to have an episode to release on New Year's Day. We have not completely nailed down what that's going to be yet, so stay tuned to our social media for that.
Yeah, we have a couple of options we're mulling over based on
availability,
the difficulty of.
Speaking of social media, check us out on Bluesky. That's the main place to talk to us. High Tech Low Life. Got in there and nabbed that handle before it was swiped up. Also, you can follow Josh at Count Zero with the COUNTXERO, right?
ER0.
ER0.
Correct.
And I am at, I think I'm at the Frog with a 0. I don't remember.
I believe that's correct as well. Yeah.
We are on Twitter, Johnny 60 Seconds. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/hightechlowlife, where we should be releasing simultaneously with this, our watch along and our initial reaction to the film. Josh hadn't seen it in like 20 years. And
easily. Yeah.
You got to capture his raw emotion.
Yes.
And it was a pretty fun watch along, not going to lie.
It's, like we said, it is a movie that this would so benefit from a minute-by-minute format.
Yeah. And then email us, hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com. Also, we have a link tree.
Fucking hell, we forgot that goddamn email again.
Damn it. God damn it.
Son of a bitch.
We don't have time. We are so
no,
far
we
over.
don't. We are. Okay, next week. I'm in my email right now, and I'm putting a little star by it, so it sits at the top of my email and reminds me.
Sorry, once again, for forgetting that email. It's not that I forgot. We just don't have time. We will get to it soon, I promise.
Yes. We apologize. I don't know how to pronounce this. Kevin.
I believe it's Kevin.
It's signed Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's given us a lot of good questions on Patreon and stuff. So we will get to it.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it, right?
I think that's it.
Real quick, you got a couple weeks. Download Status Quo Radio from Sean Faust. It's a good song. He needs the streams. Get him money. Let him help all the cats he wants to help.
Yes, that would be ideal.
Sean Faust only cares about two things: eating enough food to survive and helping cats.
Yes.
Stream Status Quo Radio by Sean Faust on Spotify and buy it on Bandcamp. Thank you. We are out of here now.
We are out of here with a quote. We're advising our clients to put everything they've got in canned food and shotguns.
I have one too, if you'll indulge me.
Oh, sir.
Because of the end of civilization, the Clamp Cable Network now leaves the air. We hope you have enjoyed our programming, but more importantly, we hope you have enjoyed life.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Happy holiday.
Bye.
This has been the High Tech Low Life podcast. Find us on Twitter at Johnny60seconds, email us at hightechlowlifepodcast@gmail.com, and find us on Patreon at patreon.com/hightechlowlife. Theme music by Nihilor at nihilor.com. Thank you for listening.
Keep it moving. Come on. What are you waiting on? Let's go.
They're trashing our rights, man! They're trashing the fluid data! They're trashing! Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Shut up and get in the car.